Antoine is going to be crowned your WOR Season 10 champion.
And history's been made. Ballina, the first WOR PS4 champion. What a championship, what a season. Absolutely phenomenal.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to World Online Racing, not Xbox for a change, on a Monday night. It is the postponed PlayStation tier with the final round of the season at the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache for the Brazilian Grand Prix. My name is Luke Etheridge, and joining me in the commentary box for tonight, it is a return for Sam Thompson. Sam, how are you doing?
Luke, hello everybody, and yeah, I'm finally back in the commentary box after about a month or two out, but that's obviously not to matter. It's the final round of the PS tier, if I am correct, because I have come in last minute. I think the championship is wrapped up. Just remind me, is it or not?
Just a bit. Sam Corby, 202 points out of a possible 275, but out of the races he's took part in, possible 225. He has a whopping 114 point lead going into the final round. More than double the points of Brock and Andrea, and his victory last time around, coupled with a good performance from Kryptonite, means that AlphaTauri have won the Constructors' Championship as well. So nothing to play for in terms of the championship, but as we've seen quite a few times in the past in Brazilian Grand Prix, on league racing and in real life, that doesn't necessarily mean we'll get a dull race. Now that the drivers can have a bit of fun at the end of the season, should be a really good race.
Oh yeah, for sure, of course. A lot of these drivers have come into it and everything, although there's nothing really on the line anymore, but that's the spirit of it. You know, there's not really any pressure anymore on any of the drivers. Anyone fighting for championships like the Constructors or Drivers' title and everything, that's gone out the window. It's just good, hard racing for all these drivers, and in some ways it's actually a chance for them to perhaps be a bit experimental and a bit creative with some of their moves, which should be some good excitement for us. But also, these drivers, hopefully, cross their fingers, should provide us some action in good fashion, but also in a very safe one as well.
Yeah, certainly. I'm sure they'll be hoping maybe to put themselves in a good stead for next season. Sign-ups aren't open yet, but I'm sure it won't be long before we're hearing more about that. Whether some of these drivers, I know a few already, are talking about heading over to the PC side. Whether they do that, whether they do stay on the PlayStation, I'm not so sure. Let's talk about a few of the drivers. Obviously, we've mentioned that Sam Corby's had a ridiculous run in the championship so far. Two McLaren, second and third in the championship. Brock and Andrea. Risa is fourth. He's on 66 points. Jackson Lars tied for fifth on 58. And then Simon Jensen, Cohen and Rudy rounding out the top 10 in the championship at the moment. There's definitely some quick drivers here. We've seen that by the fact that Sam Corby, our champion, hasn't had any pole positions. It's just no one was able to get close to his race pace and his consistency.
Yeah, I mean, we all know who Sam Corby is by this point, even if we've just been introduced to him through WOR this season. I think everyone knows really who he is. We know how consistent he is as a driver, and a lot of people know how experienced he is as well. And many people say, why does that really come into matter? Trust me, experience in any sense of the question, in any sort of thing you're doing, whether it's, you know, a job, whether it's whether it is racing or anything, experience matters. We think about this, obviously, you know, for example, Lando Norris in Russia, that experience to not, listen to his engineers, trust his engineers, cost him a race win in that instance. And that matters a lot. And when you're experiencing everything, you know how drivers are going to act in everything, and you've seen it all. You know how to predict things, and also you know how to be a bit more consistent as well, and also obviously, of course, face yourself under the pressure.
Yeah, certainly. Obviously, you've got to try and back yourself under that bit of pressure. You can see some of the previous winners of races prior to this season. We've got Antoine there as well. Jake Benham, who's obviously now with Veloci. CRG Lutt, Caden Lutt, as you might know. Pinecone and Syrah as well. Some real names winning here over the years on the Xbox platform. Of course, on last night, I believe it was, Sunday night. Today's been a long day. I thought Sunday was quite a while ago then. Fabrizio Donoso, esports driver, taking the victory on the PC tier in slightly controversial circumstances. I think it's fair to say quite a few other drivers, including the aforementioned Jake Benham, weren't exactly happy with that. We'll have to see what action we get tonight. Standard setup, of course, 18-minute qualifying, 36-lap race, and as it is Interlagos, there's always that possibility we're going to see some wet weather.
Oh, of course. Brazil is very famous for championship battles, but just also for the weather as well. It could be so unpredictable, and it could cause so much action. And we do have a lot of drivers who probably claim to be wet weather specialists, or some who probably want to keep away from the wet weather. And I think the weather here is probably going to be a factor. There is going to be probably a lot of different weather. Whether we do get wet, though, is to be seen. But likelihood is it'll probably be dry quality, dry race. But in terms of whether it be clear atmosphere, overcast, or anything, who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Always that own little tropical climate that Interlagos has. Interlagos between lakes, giving the circuit that unique bowl feel with all the different undulation. Much change since it was first in Formula 1 in 1973. Was a much longer circuit in the 70s and 80s. Went away, did the Brazilian Grand Prix to Rio de Janeiro. That circuit now actually part of the Rio Olympic Park before coming back to Interlagos, where it has been almost without interruption. I think the only year they missed was last year due to the coronavirus pandemic, since 1991, and has seen many of a championship battle and many interesting races over the years. Thankfully, though, for all the drivers for tonight, looks like it is going to be dry for this qualifying session. I expect to see plenty of times here. Will we see any drivers trying to get the slipstream into work? It's a track that tests a lot of things. Interlagos. Sector 1 and Sector 3, really just all about the power that the car has got. Sector 2, really tight and twisty. Could play a part in the race, depending on where you catch up cars when you're on faster tyres.
Yeah, of course, Interlagos it is a driver favourite, really, just simply because of how diverse it is. As you said, very, very quick through that Sector 1, and Sector 2 can be very slow, but can be quite tricky as well. That's when you're going to make up the most time, of course, through Sector 2. And Sector 3, it's just really one corner, and then it's just a dash to the line. So a lot of diversity in the corners. You've got fast corners, slow corners, and then just basically a straight as your three sectors. But it's not only that. This track is just so nice to drive. It's so flowing, and I think we've seen, obviously, previous league races raced here. It tends to be very close in terms of qualifying. One of the closer tracks out of all of them in terms of the performance difference between the drivers, because not only do these drivers know this track so well, but this track is such a fun, enjoyable track to drive, an easy track to learn as well. These drivers basically get the nail of it pretty quickly.
Yeah, I have got some interesting news about the weather. We're predicting, a legend's been disqualified from the session for being parked in a dangerous location, so I'm not sure if he's made a mistake coming out of the pit lane or something, but that is very bad for Legend. He's not going to be setting any time in this session. Let's go on board then with Asacombe around this Interlagos circuit, heading down towards the centre S, downhill braking zone, sweeping over to the left-hand side, left, right, and then left again through turn number 3, the long Curva de Sol, and then DRS open down the Reta Aposta, heading towards turn number 4 and 5, Tecido de Largo, scene of some controversy, of course, in the 2021 Brazilian Grand Prix. Asacombe taking it very nice and steady there. In fact, it looks like he has backed off of this lap. So let's see who else we've got going on the run at the moment. Lars just in behind, running through that first corner as well, going up through the gears. A lot of drivers taking it nice and steady, almost like they're possibly thinking about doing a second out lap almost.
Yeah, it does seem like that. It's either that, obviously, or they've invalidated, but looking at all of them, obviously we've got the track map up, it doesn't look like they have invalidated. It's all on black, it's not gone red or anything, so yeah, it does look like they're going to favoritise second laps, and it's quite unique, isn't it? Because you don't usually see that. in many races. I don't know if that's to do with the track or just the driver's preference, perhaps for this run. But we are obviously we're here to see, and hopefully someone does set themselves a quick lap. By the looks of it, Jensen probably is on a quick lap, but I don't know how far behind he is. Well, oh my goodness, that was Cohen in the way, his teammate. In fact, quick dodge out the way there, but yeah, a bit of traffic from Jensen. I don't think his lap's going to be very, very quick. But yeah, looks decent so far, but people only starting to get some quick laps in. Jax and Andrea probably the first two to set legitimate laps, while Lars and Askacombe probably have just done second bankers to set up for this lap.
Yeah, definitely something that's a lot more common on this game than it was in previous games. Modestroll goes fastest for now. Jensen just slots him ahead of him. 106.699 then to go fastest of everyone. On board then with Kryptonite, part of AlphaTauri, part of the new Constructors Champions, as he heads up the hill towards the double right-hander of Ferragora. This part of the circuit actually running, I believe, in the opposite direction to what they used to on the old one now. Coming down through Pinherinho, be very careful with that curb on the left-hand side and this one on the exit as well. Bico de Pato, where Hamilton and Albon came together in 2019. That robbing Albon of his chance of a first podium and gifting one to Carlos Sainz. Then through Magulio and Young Sao, probably one of the most important corners on the circuit. You've got to get it right from there because it is now flat out all the way up the hill, moving up the gears. Expect to see a lot of slipstreaming and a lot of overtakes down this straight in the race. Where's Kryptonite going to put the car? Goes into fifth, and as you saw there from Kryptonite and from a lot of the other drivers as well, it is worth on your hot lap hugging that wall on the left hand side to just get that best possible run through the final part of the circuit, as Eltink finds himself getting stuck in some traffic. Quite a short track, quite a rapid track as well. You can see 66-second lap times with 19 cars. There's not going to be a lot of space out there.
Oh no, not at all, and it's not exactly a very wide track either. In places it's actually quite narrow. Obviously on board with Jensen, we saw the amount of traffic really in his way, and he'd be very, very satisfied, I reckon, with the lap he's got to go provisional pole for a small amount of time. Obviously Askacombe changing that, but to be right up there with that lap, he'd be very, very happy with that, because he will know that on multiple occasions he probably had to hesitate a little bit, because obviously the Alpine in front of him, or Cohen, getting in the way. And I think there was a bunch of other drivers who were also proven to be difficult traffic. So Jensen will be feeling quite confident after the lap, and I'm sure he'll be able to improve by even a tenth or even two on his laps. But yeah, a lot of people still for pet laps at the moment, and you know, competitive laps. Only half the field have really set that, and I think even some of them probably haven't reached their proper peak. Well, nowhere near their proper peak yet.
No, Eltink's just had a bit of trouble there, I think, coming on the entry into Bico de Pato, so getting well out of the way of F Messenger, who's just coming through the middle sector split now. Says he's not done a lot of practice, as Modestrol actually sets his fastest lap on a third lap on that set of soft tyres. I've seen people go for 2 laps on a set of soft, 3, something a bit new. I'm not sure he'll be wanting to start the race on that set. Messenger now heads towards the finish line. What that time is this going to be for him? Puts him in 11th now on a 107.419. 14 drivers have set a lap time at the moment. I think only 11 with a competitive lap time, and one of those that hasn't set any time whatsoever is, of course, our champion, Sam Corby. An excellent season from him so far. He went last to first at Saudi Arabia. Very possible that he's going for it again here, and you can make the alternate strategy work around this circuit.
Oh yeah, for sure. Brazil is one of those tracks. Obviously, I think we saw in the PC tier a lot of people doing that reverse strategy outside the top 10 and finishing quite high. And of course, it'll be easily possible for anyone to do that reverse strategy and get away with it as well, and move up the grid very quickly. And with someone like Sam Corby as well, who knows that amongst his field and everything, and you know, this isn't meant to bug the field or anything. With a field like this and everything, knowing how dominant he's been in the championship, he'd be feeling really confident about that reverse strategy if he's going to go from that last to first. Well, kind of last to first. I don't think he'd be able to get ahead of Legend, unfortunately, because Legend obviously got disqualified. But there's a lot of interesting drivers here so far. I think Modestrol definitely is one to watch out for. I think a lot of people now realise he is probably one of the quickest drivers on the entire platform. going in to the new year. So watch out for Modestro in this session, and obviously watch out for Modestro in the near future as well, because he's definitely a driver that has suddenly become quite a threat really to top the top drivers.
Yeah, certainly. I know he's one of those drivers that somehow manages to split time between PC and PS and be quite quick on both platforms. So definitely one of those to watch out for the future. Watching NRX Dan Spreen, as he was known for the majority of the season. He's just about to finish his first run in this qualifying session. Keeps it nice and clean coming through Youngstown, the final proper corner, and then this long left-hander. Drivers cutting over the pit line that is allowed at this circuit, sort of the natural racing line. Dan, in the end, goes into 12th place. We'll see how Jensen's doing on his lap. Down coming through Sector 1. He has backed off in the end, so perhaps now he is actually going to bother going for that second run. Asacombe, 2 temps up, coming through the final sector. Has he gone too deep into Youngstown? No, looks like he was almost perfect through there. Only needs to find 11 thousandths of a second with half the session to go to get him towards pole position as the Ferrari driver is going to come towards the finish line now. Is it going to be pole? 106.496 for him. He takes pole position, as that is Lars. He's spun round coming out of Tessino de Largo, and a 5-place grid penalty for a collision with Dan. It's been quite a harsh stewarding so far in this session.
Yeah, and obviously, I think that's another lap gone, obviously, as well. Unsurprised. There's a lot of people, because there's F Messenger as well, just behind. There is a lot of people proving to be quite tricky traffic in there, and I think, again, KGL Tink proving to be that case as well, unless he was fine to get away. I honestly don't know, but it is proven to be quite difficult with 90 drivers on this short circuit, because a lot of people are getting in the way of each other, and there's a lot of drivers that have got those incidents in them. But for Lars, that's a 5-place grid penalty. We're not too sure what for, but he spun and it looks like he's just got in the way or caused a collision with Dan. But who knows who caused what collision, because no one really knows. But oh well, interesting.
Yeah, not a lot he can do about that. He's just going to have to deal with it, unfortunately. And of course, as we see Williams getting well out of the way, if he does qualify in the top 10, he gets the 5-place grid penalty. Even if that knocks him outside the top 10, he would still have to start on the set of tyres that he did his fastest lap in qualifying on. We've seen Shazoo Tom, formerly known as IFR Tom Robbo. He's now part of the Shazoo team. He's got into 3rd place on an identical time to this man, and Modestro, as we saw him do earlier on, decides it is not worth getting another running. F Messenger, he's improving now, coming through the middle sector, only just less than a 10th of a second down, well, up I should say, on his personal best at the moment. He's got one of the Mercedes drivers ahead of him. He decides to hug that left-hand side. That is Elting, who I think is actually, he's backed off on his lap, judging by that red light flashing in front of him. Make sure that he gets well out of the way of the Ferrari man. Doesn't want any potential penalties for blocking. And this does look like a much better lap then from F Messenger. If he can nail the final corner, might even be able to see the Ferrari driver get into the top 10. The reserve man opens his DRS now, heads towards the finish line in the Ferrari. What's it going to be for his second run in qualifying? Ends up going up only 1 place in the end, just missing out on overtaking Andrea. And that is F Messenger in 12th place. We've seen Santeri. He's up into 10th at the moment. He's going a lot quicker, though, on this lap. Purple in the middle sector. 3rd lap on this set of tyres. So suggest to me if you could nail it on a first or even a second run, you'd be able to find a tiny bit more pace in that car. The Alfa Romeo heads towards the finish line. Where's it going to be for Santeri? Gets himself up into 4th. But again, you're not going to be wanting to start this race on 3-lap old tyres. And at the moment, that's Santeri and Modestro, both the FBR drivers, would find themselves in a bit of trouble in the opening laps.
Oh yeah, definitely. And I think for both of them, this is something to really watch out for. Interesting, really, why they've gone for this strategy. Whether it's something to do with obviously, whether it's something to do with rain being in the race or something. They know that they don't need to use another set of softs, because what it could be is just literally a soft to wet or intermediate session. I don't know, but they're definitely maximizing the softs, and quite interestingly as well. It could be either that, or it could be literally just down to the fact that the circuit is very short. Or it could be, actually, I'm just thinking about it now, it could be the fact that the circuit's short, but it could also mean that we could be starting the race with a bit of rain, but it's looking to progress into a dry race, which looks like to most of these drivers that it's going to be, you know, a wet or intermediate race, and then move on to medium tyres perhaps midway through.
Yeah, I've just actually had a quick look at the Discord chat with all the drivers in. Full wet race is what is predicted. We are going to have rain all the way through the race. Whether it's going to be intermediate conditions, whether it is going to need the blue walled full wet tyres, we'll have to wait and see. But that is going to make things quite a bit more difficult and might make track position more important because, of course, we won't have the drag reduction system if we end up getting rain for the entire race. So hold on to your hats, ladies and gentlemen. This could be a very interesting, very tricky race indeed, especially those first few laps, depending on what setups the drivers have gone for. You'd imagine maybe just put a tiny bit more downforce on the car, especially on the rear, just to try and stabilise things. Andrea, he's improving at the moment, still in that battle for second in the championship with his teammate, currently 11 points off that place, and Brock 6th at the moment in this race. Andrea's heading towards the finish line. This should move him up the order ever so slightly. Well, in fact, only one place up ahead of Cohen at the moment, so that is Andrea in 11th, very close. Just in the lower parts of that top 10, Kryptonite to Cohen, 6 cars separated by less than a tenth of a second.
Well, I did say this at the start, didn't I? How close we are expecting this to be. The circuit is short, the circuit is easy to learn. A lot of these drivers are definitely capable of performing on similar pace levels to each other, and you know, it's kind of proving it here. All these drivers are very, very close. I'm definitely sure that the majority, if not 1 minute 60 anyway, so all of these drivers really have the potential to be within, like, what, 5-6 tenths of a second of each other. So very interesting. A very interesting last set of tires whenever they decide to go out. A lot of drivers going out early on. I wonder if they're doing what the others are doing, basically doing 2 laps or something. But there are people still in the, and I don't think obviously they'll have really enough time to get 2 laps in.
Yeah, I think maybe just trying to avoid a bit of the traffic or give themselves that extra time to get a better run. Jensen's improving at the moment. He's going to get a lovely slipstream off Andrea here. Is this going to be enough to put him on pole position for now? No. Gets himself into second place, and I think he'll be backing off on this lap. So rather than taking the shorter line, perhaps quite wisely, he went for that slipstream, and he stays in second place for now. 2 minutes 20 remaining. A lot of drivers going for their final runs quite early on. We've seen there Lars, he's retired from the session. 6th is the best he's going to do. Brock comes towards the line. Is this going to be his final run? He stays in 7th place for now. Does improve the time ever so slightly. Not able, though, to improve his position. And he's backed off a run as well. So I think that's going to be it in this session. OP Thomas just starting another lap. Modestrol starting a lap as well. Let's see what the Haasman can do. 106.597 at the moment. Needs to find 1/10 plus 1,000th of a second to get himself onto pole position. We go on board with the Haas car coming through that first sector. 60.477. Half a tenth down through there as Shazoo Tom actually goes the fastest. Part of Shazoo, new team, new performance from him. Quite a large margin at the top of the order considering how short the track is.
Yeah, for sure, but there's a lot of people still set to do their last laps. Modestrol, Askakome, of course. Cohen's just set his last lap. Not enough to defeat Askakome, just off that. But Tom there, that's a very, very good lap. And for Modestrol, how's he doing for the exit sector 2? He's down. He's down by a tenth, so it's very unlikely now he's going to get pole position. How about Askakome? Askakome, he's out of the fight. He's definitely just slowing up now. He's definitely not on a hot lap. Santeri, he's just started his lap, so watch out for Santeri at the moment. He is probably the only one who probably could. And I tell you what, that first sector, 1/10 up already. He's definitely on for something great here, Santeri.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see what Santeri can do. I'm just looking at his teammate at the moment. WOR Visa, the man with the most poles in this tier so far this season with 3. And he is improving on this lap at the moment. Nearly a quarter of a second up as he came through the second sector. Perhaps just slightly wide of the apex at Young Sao. But I expect him to get a long way up the order here. Maybe even challenge Kuhn and Jensen, the 2 Alpines, as Risa comes towards the line. Goes in between them with 4th place. So a very good job from him. Santeri as well. He's up. coming through Sector 2. I think he's going to get close to his teammate as well. Alfa Romeo and Alpine having a really good qualifying session here, even though, of course, Constructors' Championship is over. They still want to prove that they can do a fantastic job and get themselves in the best possible tier next season. As Santeri goes into 3rd place. Asakone was on a 2nd run. He's invalidated his run. Any other drivers that are actually going for 2nd runs here? Modestroll unable to. Reese's backed off. Kryptonite, I think he's backed off his lap as well. He's got himself up into 6th place. Another great qualifying performance from him. Hammerleinen, we're not going to go for all the ends at the end. We're just going to stick with Hammerleinen. He's 3,000th down coming through Sector 2 at the moment. So unlikely to challenge for pole position unless he made an absolute hash of the final corner last time around. But we'll see what the Williams driver can do. Has he found enough time to get any improvements? We're not going to find out because he has headed into the pit lane. OP Toma also coming into the pits. Eltink is improving at this moment in time. He's getting a lovely slipstream off Kuhn. He's the only driver apart from Sam Corby that has a set of representative lap time, and I think he's ran out of fuel heading towards the line and decided, you know what, might as well just end up in the pit wall. Eltink clearly was improving there. Don't think it would have been enough to challenge for pole position, but it is Tom on pole, Jensen in 2nd place. I think actually he's just improved again on an older set of soft tyres. Now, we've already said that doesn't matter. Jensen 2nd, Santeri 3rd, Asakone 4th, Kuhn in 5th. Don't know if that qualifying tells us a lot, seeing as we're going to get rain for the race.
I mean, it just seems very, very stacked, doesn't it, this grid at the moment? I can't really see a clear winner at the moment. Everyone's who, you know, you'd expect to be quicker, you know, who on paper look quicker when you look at the rest of the season. People like Toma, Eltink as well, Lars obviously down in 10th, but he'll be shafted down to 15th because he has that 5-place grid penalty. You know, and then you got some people who have perhaps been more of midfield drivers for the majority of the season. People like Santeri, obviously Jensen and Tom Robbo probably drivers that are going to be near the top. But you've got a rather mixed jumble, and because it's a wet race and everything, it's a completely different approach to this qualifying session that was fully dry. A lot of these drivers perhaps, well, some of these drivers probably not even done much wet running in terms of Brazil, and, you know, that could play a factor when it comes to the race for all of these drivers.
Yeah, it was an exceptionally close qualifying session. Top 13 drivers within half a second, but it was Shizou Tom who takes pole position. IFR Jensen just behind his older esports teammate, 16,000ths of a second. Santeri is 3rd. Asakone set the pace early on. He could only get 4th. Kuhn 5th. Kryptonite 6th. Risa 7th. Modestroll unable to improve, really, from his first run in qualifying. He's only 8th. Jax is 9th. Lars will drop down to 15th, which means Bock gets into the top 10. And then it is Hammerleinen, Andrea, Messenger, Toma. Lars will slot into that 15th. Dan, Eltink, and Sam Corby, our reigning champion. Seeing what he can do on that last to first, which is going to be even more difficult than normal if what we're hearing is true. And it looks like Jess is looking forward to it, that we're going to get wet weather for the entire race.
Yeah, well, wet races can be either two things. They could be chaotic, exciting, and amazing, or they could just be a cautious mess of boringness. I have to be honest, that does tend to happen. But because this is Brazil, we have to give the benefit of the doubt that, you know, Brazil is going to perform as an absolutely amazing race because it's Brazil. You know, wet conditions, dry conditions. This track is just perfect for racing. And I do think that the drivers, particularly with Sam Corby coming from the back, we're going to be seeing a lot of action from him. I think the likes of KJ Eltink as well towards the back as well. They're drivers you wouldn't normally see near the back. Lars as well, Dan, another one as well. Perhaps drivers you see towards the midfield or the front. Seeing them come from the back, it's going to be a very thrilling experience to watch. And I'm very intrigued to see what their strategies will be now that obviously they can't play that reverse strategy that we were talking about in qualifying beforehand.
Yeah, they are going to have to go for, well, everyone will be starting on a fresh set of tyres because of the wet conditions. Would be slightly cool to make the top 10 start on a set of soft, but if they wanted to spice Formula 1 up in real life, maybe, who knows what could happen in the future. Season 12 will be starting soon. More information about that you'll be able to find out, I imagine, in the new year on either the Twitter or the Discord. You can find out about that in the description. As we take a look at the track map then, the circuit, the Autodromo Jose Carlos Pache Interlagos circuit, 2.677 miles, 15 turns, 2 DRS zones that I think, unfortunately, we're not going to see getting used. Quite an undulated circuit as we head out, and you can see full wet conditions for everyone. Plenty of standing water, absolutely tipping it down around here. You're going to want to be in Tom's place at the moment with a nice clear circuit in front of you. Everyone else is just going to get butchered in the spray.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I think a lot of these drivers behind, they're going to be the ones struggling. Tom has got it all out in front of him. He doesn't need to worry about visibility. He doesn't need to worry about absolutely anything at the front of this pack. And on the full wet tyres as well, it's going to be quite intriguing because, again, a lot of people, they know the intermediates well much better than the full wets in terms of like these league races. Not many of them practice full wet conditions. It'll be intermediates or dry conditions at most that they do practice for, but the wet conditions, they're going to be the trickiest, particularly in these opening laps where there is no line really set out, no dry line really set out in the opening laps. There is puddles on the track, on the line and everything. These drivers are going to have no real, they're going to have no real traction through any of the corners at all, and they've got to be really nice and early on with the track. So whoever's leading, they have got a huge advantage.
Yeah, they've got to obviously be extremely careful as Tom and Elting have both been disqualified, so they're going to be starting on freezing cold tyres and haven't even had a formation lap. Well, in Elting's case, didn't get the formation lap to sort of go around and perhaps just even see where tiny bits of grip are. Expect it to be a very, very careful start, perhaps, as the drivers just try to feed their way into this race. If we get a lot of safety cars, you might even see some drivers attempt a no-stop strategy, although their tyres will be crying enough. One stop, as shown on the screen there, probably the most likely, especially if we are going to get wet conditions all the way through. Or will it even change towards a set of intermediate and full dry tyres? Dan just heading into his grid slot, then the final car to take his slot as we get 5 lights here at Interlagos. Season finale is underway then for WOR. What are the starts like? It looks like Jensen not getting the best of starts there. The head of Tom, but he's going to send one down the inside into turn number 1. So it is Jensen in the lead for now. Is Tom able to fight back on the inside of the second part of the centre S as he tried his best, but that tighter line not giving him the traction he needs. So it is Jensen, despite a bit of a sluggish getaway, in the lead of this race. Tom in second, Santevi is in third. Asacombe and Cohen battling on the back of Santevi as well, and Asacombe now trying to go side by side with the Alfa Romeo driver on the first lap of this race. There's a bit of back wheel banging between the two of them. Brock and Kryptonite there as well. He just saw the Ferrari skating his way along the circuit. A lot of these drivers have underfueled, I think, hoping that there will be a safety car in this race. I know in the 24 hours F1 charity event we saw a few drivers having to save fuel towards the end, but it looks like everyone has got through the first few corners cleanly. Sam Corby just battling here with Elting on his inside. The Mercedes just getting ahead for now. Everyone, to be fair, looks like they've got through the first couple of sectors cleanly, and it is Jensen in the lead from Tom and Asacombe. Just great bravery by Tom, really, down the inside into turn 1. Great trust between the two drivers who have worked together a lot before. That's Jensen off!
Oh my goodness! I was not expecting that. And he's just... What has happened there? He's gone out the exit of Junsal and he's just dropped the car. And from the lead of the race, he's gone all the way to the back and he's now under pressure from Thomas, who's also at the back. Wow, for Tom and everything, it's like Christmas has come early. Not too early though, because obviously it's only 5 days away, but still, it has come nice and early for him. He's got the lead of the race now, and his championship rival, well, not his championship rival, but his race rival so far, Jensen, who's gone from P1 to P18 just in a matter of one mistake.
Yeah, I think there's another Alpine's made a mistake as well. That's Cohen coming out of Destino de Largo. He's off and he's broken his front wing, and that's F Messenger going very slowly as well. Virtual safety car then. So a lot of these drivers that have underfueled, that is good news for them. VSC, everyone having to slow the pace down, and everyone just now trying to recover after all that chaos. I think in a way, Jensen is extremely lucky that if you go off towards the left there at Young Sao, the game, I know it looked like he reset to track. Quite often the game just resets you to the track, and it's a good job for him because he was heading very close to a barrier which could well have wiped out the rear of his car, if not giving him all sorts of damage. So now it's just time for other drivers to calm down ever so slightly. Tom's still leading, Asacombe second, Santevi third, Risa in fourth. But at this slower pace, not going to be as much chance, obviously, to push as much water into the air, displace as much. About 80 litres of water getting displaced by these wet tyres. And if the rain carries on like this for the entire race, I can't see anyone moving to intermediates as Lars, another penalty, one in qualifying, gets one here. Drive-through for speeding under the virtual safety car. That will drop him right towards the back of the field as Cohen is in the pits for a new front wing.
Yeah, and I mean, I don't know what happened on the second lap. It just looked like one of those incidents that you do see in a real life F1 race. And oh, Lars, what's happened to him there? Has he just spun, or has he done that intentionally? I wonder. I don't want to, I don't want to doubt it or anything, or doubt him, but I think he probably done that intentionally or something, or he basically done it in the sense that he didn't really care anymore because he got the drive-through. But as long as it's not a safety car, I think we're all good. And no, it's not a safety car, so this race continues as normal, and we don't have a safety car to back up the field, which is good. So there's no sort of suspicion for race fixing, if you may. And well, for Lars and everything, he's out of this race. For Cohen, he's right at the back of the grid. He's got a lot of work to do. I think all these drivers have really got now a lot of work to do who are towards the back end. Well, everyone behind Tom, to be honest with you, because Santeri is now 2 seconds behind Tom. So Tom has absolutely flown away from the rest of the pack.
Yeah, and Asacombe and Risa there, both with all wheels locked up. Risa trying to go down the inside for the first part of the centre S. Makes it round the outside of the second part. Great move by the Alfa Romeo. Both of them on the podium then at this time. This is fantastic from them. Modestroll now all over the back of Asacombe. We're seeing plenty of moves. Sam Corby's got himself up into 10th. No way is he going to make this work. All the way around the outside of Andrea at Decido de Largo. And yeah, I think that was a bit brave there from our champion, but unable to make that move work. Half on the grass as well. Very surprised that didn't end up spinning the car around, especially in these conditions. Sam Corby stays in 10th position for now. Like you said, it has been an absolutely great start, though, from Tom. 1.7 seconds ahead. Santeri nearly a second ahead of his teammate, as well as Elting there just hopping over the grass ever so slightly as he's battling with Jensen. Don't think the Alpine is going to be too happy with that one. These really losing a lot of time now to those cars in front. Elting in 13th, Jensen in 14th, as Asacombe's made a mistake coming through Mergulio and into Young Sal, losing it on traction there. He's down into 7th place. He's got Kryptonite all over the back of him, but I think had to back off in that situation. And now Sam Corby in a more conventional place, managing to get the move done. Andrea, he's up into 9th. Asacombe again losing a lot of pace here. I wonder if he's got damage or something on that Ferrari. He's dropped down all of a sudden into 10th.
I don't know what he did. It looked like he just went onto the grass, went wide, but I don't know. It doesn't look like he's got damage visibly, but he looks to be going off the line and looks to be really losing the pace on the straight. So I don't know whether he's picked up floor damage, whether that's even really possible, because I don't really know the settings. I think it's standard, but I don't think that really accounts to any floor damage, but I could be wrong. But anyway, he's fallen back. It looked like on the straights he was quite slow. Not the main straight, because the main straight he intentionally slowed down. It was pretty obvious to see. But more on the straight, down to turn 4, he looked quite slow out there. So I'm wondering if he's got a bit of floor damage, perhaps, which is costing him a bit of speed on the straights.
Yeah, great side-by-side action there between the two. Williams, legend, getting himself up into 11th, recovering well from that qualifying ban. Well, from that disqualification in qualifying. You can see he's gained 7 places. It's now going to become 8 places, really. Flying past Asacombe, who's really struggling with traction out of some of these corners. I wonder if he's gone for a bit more of a faster straight line setup. It did look like he was pulling away from Risa earlier on in what was a straight drag race between them. Biggest loser then, obviously, Jensen and Cohen, both for the Alpines, after a fantastic qualifying. Having a bit of a name start to this race as F Messenger gets himself up into 14th place ahead of NRX Dan, and Dan just losing it on the way into Centre S, and that might give Tomer a fantastic run. He's going to find a massive Red Bull blocking his run, though, coming through turn number 3. At the front of the field, though, very interestingly, Santeri has closed up to the back of Tom. That gap was over 2 seconds after the virtual safety car. Well, now, what, less than a second.
I don't even know what Tom has done then. Has Tom made a similar mistake to Jensen, but not obviously lost the rear end? or something. I don't actually know. Either that or he's just being very, very cautious. He's not really worrying too much. He's got 100% ERS, but then so has Santeri, so has Risa, so has Modestrol. They've all the top 4 have got 100% ERS, so none of them are really, really pushing. Well, they're pushing on the straight now because they can use that access of ERS, but none of them are really, really pushing to close in. So I'm wondering if Tom just has made a small mistake on the exit of a corner or something, and that's cost him a valuable amount of time. But he's not under pressure just yet, though, is he?
No, he's not. Someone who is under pressure is Kryptonite there. Didn't defend from his teammate, but didn't exactly make it the easiest, as that is Sam Corby now up into 7th position, trying to work his way through the order. Where there is a gap appearing, though, is the top 3 are escaping. Modestrol now 2.5 seconds back. Brock a further second behind the Haas driver. It's not been a bad few laps for the Spaniard, for FER in the Haas. He's just trying to work his way up. Could even get his first podium of the season, but he's been unable to make a lot of the races. But it's a very interesting start so far. A lot of drivers are making mistakes. We're seeing Asacombs come into the pits. He's put on a full set of the wet tyres. He'll be hoping he can get towards the end on that full set of tyres. We're hearing a lot of drivers, well, a lot of people asking what tier is this. Is the top PlayStation tier, not the top Xbox. This was rearranged from last week due to a lot of drivers being unable to make it, as that is a yellow flag, and that is Legend, who's gone for a spin, going through Pico de Pato. No real harm done, though. Just needs to clean his tyres up ever so slightly. And the Williams driver drops down into 12th place. No one looking. Oh, Risa there has a massive moment coming through that fast left-hander, similar to where Mark Webber lost it in the infamous 2003 race. Massive moment there from Risa, all over the show. Sam Corby on the back of Jax, not able to get close enough. Jensen, though, has been able to make a move work on Hammerline, and I think Jax has made a slight mistake through the centre S, because Sam Corby has now found his way through. There is overtaking happening, quite a lot actually, for the wet race. Normally we'd have a bit more dull than this, and Jax could be losing another place to an Alpha Tauri here. Can Kryptonite make it work? All the way around the outside of Decido de Largo. Going to be a brave move if he can do so. He's had to go up and over the curb. Has to yield for now. Lap number 8. Tom still leading from Santeri and Risa, but this man in the Haas set the fastest lap last time around, so he could well make it a 4-car train.
Yeah, well, obviously on that battle between Jax and Sam Corby, and that battle, it was a strong battle down to turn 1. It looked like Jax had the position, but what Jax did is he thought that Sam Corby was definitely going to try send it round the outside of that corner, but Sam just backed out of it. So Jax didn't realise, and he had obviously outbroke himself and went a bit wide, and Sam Corby was just like, doors open now, and there we go. He took the position. And obviously now for Jax, that's 2 positions lost in 1 corner, basically, because of that one small mistake and that one small try and outbreak maneuver that did not work.
Yeah, it did not work for him. Obviously trying to push Sam wide, but Sam very wise to that. It did look from that camera angle as though there was a tiny bit of a drier line appearing. I think calling it a dry line is rather brave at this moment in time, given the amount of standing water we've got off of line. So maybe that's why we're seeing a few mistakes once drivers just get it slightly wrong and go on to those patches of standing water, as F. Messenger becomes the first driver in this race to get a 3-second time penalty for multiple warnings at this moment. But Sam Corby in the other Alpha Tauri to Kryptonite really pushing at the moment. Elton gets a 5-second penalty for speeding in the pit lane. I wonder if we're going to see him retire from the race, or if he is going to try and carry on. Hopefully the latter, because there's so much happening in this race, you never know. He's on to his 3rd set of wet tyres, and I believe that's his final set of wet tyres. So if he has to pit again, and it's still full wet conditions, he'll be going on to a used set. Brock's a bit deep through Pico de Pato. This might just give Sam Corby the opportunity he needs. You feel like the Alpha Tauri could go so much quicker in free air. He's just spending a lot of his time working through the traffic.
I'm starting to wonder if he's a bit of an AI, to be honest with you. Just the grip and the consistency out the corners, and here we go again. Nice and easy down the inside, like, oh, Brock. Brock was just all over the place in that 2nd and 3rd sector split in those corners. He was just all over the place, and Sam Corby was just driving. He's just been driving the same old lines, lap after lap, on the limit, and you know, he's just finding so much more grip than anyone else. You know, we talk about Max Verstappen, eat your heart out, from 2016 Brazil It's basically that sort of performance from Sam Corby at the moment, because no one is finding the grip that he is finding out of the exit of these corners. It's just absolutely ridiculous how much time he's making on everyone. Kryptonite, over a second away. Brock now, he's almost escaping towards the second in about 2 sectors.
Yeah, it's been absolutely fantastic. Of course, he didn't take part in qualifying, so I wonder whether he's been able to go for a bit more of a full wet setup and whether that is aiding him. But still, you've got to be able to drive it around in these conditions, and I will now be interested to see if he can get onto the back of a Modestroll, how quickly he might be able to do that, because I think this is his first real full lap he's been able to do in a bit of free air, Sam Corby. But you can see, you are right, he's nearly already pulled out a second on the back of Brock and Modestroll as well. He's closed it ever so slightly to the back of those front trio, but looks like it's all calming down at the front of this field then. Where it's not calming down is further down the field. The Williams are very close together. Legend on the back of Hammerline, and as there we go, Sam Corby, fastest lap of the race. Second man to get into the 1:18, 2,000 faster than what the fastest lap already was. Down the inside goes Legend on his teammate, who's going to try and hold it off on the outside there, but unable to do so. And Legend, recovering from that earlier moment, gets himself back up into 11th place. It's been as full of wet races go, because quite often on the F1 game these turn out to be the most dullest of races, has been quite entertaining so far, and we've still got 26 laps remaining.
Yeah, there's been a lot of action in this race so far, and there's a lot of headlines as well, really. You know, from Jensen basically falling apart very early on in the race, and obviously to Sam Corby absolutely doing a similar sort of thing to what Lewis Hamilton did. And I think we're going to have a new headline come up. It's not exactly too important, since it's the driver in question is absolutely miles off the rest of the field. But that is the fact that the intermediates are coming on for Cohen at the back, and I wonder if that will spark a bit of a sort of domino effect for some drivers, or whether some of the drivers are just going to say, I'm still comfortable on the wet tyres, I'm going to stay out on the wet tyres. But I really don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see, particularly the ones at the front. Looking at Santeri and Tom right now, it's very close between those two, and Risa as well, just behind. Don't count him out. I wonder what these three will be thinking and doing right now, considering that it does look like that perhaps there's going to be a bit of a crossover point between the wets and the inters now.
I'm going to be honest, I was expecting Cohen to be all over the show on that set of the intermediate tyres. Since I've been focusing on his car, he's gained nearly half a second on the leaders. Has a bit of a moment there coming out of Pinarino, but still he's not really losing loads of time. Yellow flag further back. That is Eltink off towards the wall. He's in the barrier, and he's not looking too fun at the moment. And that has caused a safety car, that spin. He spent a while stuck in the barrier. That has caused a safety car. Bad luck for Cohen, because he was flying his way through the field. Safety car is coming out surely now. If you've seen what Cohen's pace is like, you pick for a set of the intermediate tyres.
Yeah, but the thing is, who of these drivers have seen it? Only Cohen is on those tyres. You know, my bet would be people like Eltink, or perhaps who are communicating with Cohen. Maybe Jensen. I don't know whether they're in contact as teammates, but whether they'll see it, that I don't know. But maybe obviously Jensen will think that Cohen's gone on the intermediates to try something different. It's a saviour for Cohen, especially if all these drivers don't think it's ready for inters, but it clearly is. But I'm sure obviously they'll be talking to their Jeffs and everything, and then just be saying the same thing. Well, would you look at that? Santeri and Risa coming together, two Alfa Romeos, and that's going to be a bit problematic, isn't it? Kryptonite stays out, so this is good team play from Alpha Tauri originally. But for Kryptonite, it's a bit of a sacrifice for him, but I don't think he'll matter, because he gets a bit of fun to try and overtake, I think, in this race. But more interestingly, before I let you continue, everyone is going onto the wets except from Risa and Jensen. What on earth is going on?
Well, this race takes another twist then, as we just cross over a third of the way through. Risa going out on a set of the intermediates, which, from the half a lap data we had here in the commentary box, looked like they were the tyres to be on, judging by Cohen. Double stack, obviously, a lot less costly on this game than it was on well, a lot less costly since the update than it was previously. Risa only really losing maybe an extra second to what you would do in real life when it comes towards a double stack. He's got to be very careful, though, in case, well, who knows, maybe the rain will get a tiny bit heavier. Maybe the intermediates weren't going to be faster for too much longer, and the wets are going to be the tyres to be on. But it's Kryptonite and Andrea have stayed out. Oh, and that's a Mercedes spinning around. That is Eltink under the safety car on a set of intermediates, just losing it ever so slightly. And I'm sure a lot of these will be glad. I'm sure we won't get any controversy with the race director deciding to let Elting past a few of the cars, and maybe not all of them. No idea who could have possibly... Oh! Andrea's got into the back of Kryptonite there, and that gives Kryptonite a 5-second penalty. He's going to be absolutely fuming about that one, because he will have to serve that.
I just realised that's... Oh my god. That's just unfortunate, because he can't get rid of that now, can he? Whether the wets can make it to the end, I'm not too sure. Andrea pits, so this is surely onto intermediates. I cannot see it being anything different for Andrea. Simply because, why would he sacrifice this many positions in this case? And no, it's not. It's another set. Okay, so basically Andrea has decided to just say, yeah, I'm just going to give up, what is it, I don't know, half the grid of positions for a new set of wets. I suppose that makes sense, but in hindsight, considering the wets can probably go the fair distance, and probably could go the whole mile long, it probably was worth considering the gamble. But it's, unless obviously it's going on to intermediates, but I don't know. Andrea's strategy is a bit weird here. Don't see really the point of him coming into the pits for new set of wets, but if it's new set of intermediates, then I completely understand. But then again, I'm not an expert, if I'm honest. I don't know these drivers' opinions on the old wet tyres. I don't even know when the wet tyres really come to their worst bit, but most tracks, the wets and intermediates tend to go for a real long time, so could just be wrong there, or could be just the fact that Andrea could have made a bit of a blunder there. I don't know, but we'll just have to wait and see when the safety car comes in, because we could get to the point where the safety car comes in and the wet tyres are the ones to be on again.
Yeah, well, of course, as they're driving around a bit slower, things get more of an opportunity to just get a bit damper, and with how wet it is still offline, fair enough, Cohen was able to go a bit faster earlier on when he was able to stick to the racing line. If you're one of these cars on the intermediates, are you going to dare throw it off that drier line to try and go for a move, or will you just be skating straight towards the scene of the accident? I am very surprised that Andrea came into the pits when he did. It seemed like a strange thing to do, especially now that the double stack is a lot less costly than it was previously. I don't get why you'd have pitted earlier on. Lapped cars are not allowed to overtake, says Elsink. I'm sure very soon in the chat you'll be able to put a message saying lapped cars are allowed to overtake. My. If only I could predict the lottery numbers as well as I predicted that message. Elsink finds himself in this train at the moment. He is, of course, a lap down on this set of intermediates. A shame for him that he did go a lap down, because we've already said on the F1 game, lapped cars are not allowed to overtake. So any chance he's got of moving up the order, probably extremely slim now. He's going to have to rely on cars ahead of him making massive mistakes, so he somehow manages to get back onto the lead lap.
Yeah, I think for Elting now, it's more just have a bit of fun, just drive around. Now he doesn't really need to worry about the cars around him, just set as quick laps as you can. I guess that's the strategy for him. It is unfortunate though for Elting, because we all know he's a quick driver. You know, he's got a driver with a lot of potential, and particularly in this race, he could have been one of the stars of the show to move to the front. But yeah, he's a lap down. It does look like it's race over, and he probably is just there just really for the sake of enjoying it at this point. As for the rest of the guys and everything, I think the intermediate drivers will be feeling quite confident with their strategy, quite confident with this restart, which is just about to happen.
Yeah, safety car then in on this lap. Kryptonite now controlling the field on probably the worst tyres to be on out of anyone. 14 lap old, full set of wet tyres, and he's got to think about when do you go on this restart. The typical way to do it is leave it as late as possible. Pretty much leave it to when you're at the grid slots, and Tom is determined to try and get alongside that Alpha Tauri here, and there we go. Has Kryptonite gone for it? He has indeed. Off he goes. He's just not really got the grip to get away. Tom has got a penalty for a collision with Messenger, and here we go. Down the inside, thinks about it with Tom, not able to do it. Modestroll, though, manages to pull it off on Santeri. There we go. The Haas driver up into third place, and look who's now just behind that Alfa Romeo. It is Sam Corby, and he's got a much better run through turn number 3 there. He might be able to get a wheel alongside heading towards Tecido. Delargo, here comes the Alpha Tauri, here comes the champion, down the inside he goes into turn number 4, and he's pulled that one off. Sam Corby is up into 4th place. Risa, he's nearly getting involved with his teammate, gets caught on the curb, and that is Elting off towards the barrier. Not sure if he made contact with it somehow. Managed to stay out of the barriers as Tomer does his best lawnmower impression there over the grass on the run up towards Ferragora. The intermediates, they're holding their own at the moment, as are the wet tyres, but you can't decisively say which one is the quickest tyre to be on. But down the inside goes Risa on Santeri. The two teammates getting very close together. Risa's up into 5th. You've got to think, as this goes along, Risa's in an absolutely fantastic position to take this victory.
Yeah, I wonder if there's a few regrets going on.
Oh, safety car.
Okay. So basically, this safety car, I don't know how it's come out. I think F Message has just gone straight into the wall. If I'm honest, I'm not sure exactly what he's done. Is anyone going to pit for the Inters? That's my question, particularly at the back. Is anyone going to think about pitting? No. Okay, so the wet tyre drivers still feel like... Well, Tomer perhaps doesn't, but everyone else still feels relatively confident. And I think Tomer might retire, actually. But everyone else feels very confident that the wet tyres are going to be the best tyres to be on. Do they know something that we don't know? Is there more rain coming in this race? Are the intermediates only good for a select period of time? It does make me wonder whether the drivers are looking at the radar and there is more rain on the way, and this is going to cause those inter drivers to have, the wet tyre drivers to have the last laugh.
That's all I can think of. It's that fine balance between being on the right tyres for what the conditions are now and being on the right tyres for what the conditions are in 5 minutes' time, because it doesn't matter if the circuit is ready for intermediate tyres now, if it's going to throw it down in 2 minutes' time, because you're under the safety car, you can't make the best use of that intermediates. Risa lost a bit of time on the initial restart, but you saw how quickly he was able to make it up and get ahead of Santeri. I think he was on the definitely the tyres to be on. Thomas come out on another set of wet tyres. He has got that 5-second penalty, and he might come into the pits and serve that again. But apparently, we're hearing here from exclusive news from what I'm sure is someone's real-life Jeff, WOR Falk. Jeff is still saying that full wets are the fastest, which is props by people on not pitting, but inters are faster. That sort of goes with what we saw from when Cohen was going around, because it doesn't look like the rain has got any heavier, and he was gaining about half a second to a second a lap on the leaders when he was going around on the set of intermediates. It's just that few minutes time whether they're going to be the tyres to be on. As Eltink comes into the pits here, he's going to go on a brand new set of intermediates. Tomer decides to carry on, so that he's probably going to drop Eltink to the back of the field, and he's going to be a lap down on all of the cars. This shouldn't be, hopefully, shouldn't be too long of a safety car period before we'll be able to get back to green flag action. As we've already seen though, safety cars breed safety cars.
Well, I hope, to be honest, I hope we don't get like a race like we do in real life F2 where it's just safety car after safety car constantly. Well, that was the last season of F2. Who knows about next year, what it will be. But at the moment, everyone obviously just bunched up, waiting to go. Kryptonite still didn't pit, which I was surprised about. Again, I know he would have dropped to the back of the field, which would have been obviously the threat for him. But obviously he would have been off those wet tyres and also would have been able to get a safe pit stop off that 5-second penalty. That obviously he can get removed. Well, he can't get removed if he pits, but obviously that 5 seconds is gone if he does pit. But the problem if he does pit, he's to the back of the field. So there's a lot of interesting dilemmas for Kryptonite.
Yeah, I think Asakoma and a couple of other drivers there got the 5-second penalty as well. I'm pretty sure of Andrea's name involved, so whether he's got away with another one. But anyway, safety car coming in this lap. Half the race to go when we get back to green flag running. And this time it is Tom who got a slightly better restart than Kryptonite last time around on his fresher rubber. Will he be able to nail it from the start of the field? And how will Risa do? Lead car on that set of the intermediate tyres, and no penalties when a few drivers behind him have. And Tom, he's gone quite early there, and he's managed to catch a few of these drivers napping, and Risa's had a much better restart. He's almost alongside Sam Corby on the run down towards turn number 1, all the way round the outside. Can he make it stick? No, he can't. He's gone deep, and that might allow Santeri a chance to try and fight back with his teammate. And indeed, Santeri makes it stick, and now Brock's going to get the move done as well. Nightmare restart from Risa. He got a better run. Then Sam Corby just outbraked himself ever so slightly, and he drops down towards 7th place. Is that because he was shoved offline? Is that because wet tyres are starting to come into their own again? It looks like he's recovering ever so slightly. Still struggling a bit on grip. Modestroll all over the back of Kryptonite, but Tom nailed that restart already. Built a 1 second lead, and you've got to think Kryptonite's hoping that it goes to full intermediate competition so he could get rid of these wet tyres. Otherwise, he will drop a long, long way down the order.
Yeah, I think obviously a lot of these intermediate drivers are wondering whether it was the right decision. Looking at Risa at the moment, he's not making too many moves. He doesn't look like he's got much of an advantage to Brock. Brock is skating all over the place though on those wet tyres, and he was doing so before. And it was the reason why he lost so much time to Sam Corby. Like, he is sliding all over the place. But for Risa, this is so important now. He must get this move done on the McLaren. But are those inters good enough to get the move down the inside? Brakes a lot later than Brock this time, and I think he's got the move done. It's a good move from Risa. For Jensen, it is important he gets past as well. He'll have the annoying KJ Eltink just going through on his Mercedes, who's definitely making up a lot of time on those intermediates, but perhaps obviously without the fear of crashing out with anyone. I think it's a bit of a different situation. But look at that, Brock all over the place again. Here comes Jensen, but there's a bit of a squeeze to the outside. It's quite uncomfortable for Jensen, but he's still looking to the outside. This would be quite a good move if he gets it done. Whether he's got a tyre advantage or not, that is a very, very classy move. Now to the inside, it should be the position for the Alpine, and that is some beautiful racing between the McLaren and the Alpine. Nice, clean, fair, and in the end, it is a good position out for Ivar Jensen.
Yeah, and I think that says to me that the intermediates have definitely got some of an advantage. The fact that Jensen, like you said, it was a wonderful move, but the fact that he was able to go around the outside with quite a bit of consummate ease there says to me those might be the tyres to be on. Here comes Risa trying to fight back then at Santeri, trying to get himself back to where he was before the restart. He's in the slipstream of his teammate Eltink, fastest lap of the race. He, of course, does not have to worry about overtaking any of these cars because he can just go through them as Sam Corby going side by side with Modestrol here gets caught on the curb ever so slightly. Hamalainen gets a penalty, but the championship leader and the champion still has his wheel alongside here, and they're going side by side towards the seat of Largo. Who's going to brave it on the brakes? Modestrol's going to try and hold off all the way around the outside here. Can't quite manage to do so. And that is Sam Corby up into third position. And now Risa all over the back of Modestrol. Jensen's closed that gap up quite severely as well. Asacombe setting fastest laps on the intermediates. And these green wall tyres are the ones to be on. Just how much longer are they going to be the best tyre?
Oh, I just wonder here. Look at Modestrol. Almost a door left open for Risa at a corner where you definitely won't see any overtaking. But of course, because of the advantage the Inters may feel they have, obviously Risa's going to be feeling a bit confident at every single corner as Modestrol gets a bit of the curb there, opens the door. This shouldn't really be the position for Risa, but Modestrol, he looks like he's fighting very, very hard. A very hard fighting driver. Side by side now, up towards the start-finish straight here. Down towards turn one, but it looks like Risa's got the position. Modestrol, I think, is going to try and fight it, but I think we will see him outbrake himself here. I think they're going free wide into this corner. This is not very good at all. Modestrol still fighting it, to be fair, quite valuably. He's still in this battle, but I think just about he hasn't got the grip, and in the end, he's lost out to 2 positions, potentially even a third. As here comes Santeri. I think he's just a bit too far behind to get an overtake, although he is trying. Yeah, it won't going to happen. No chance. But there we go. Risa and Jensen absolutely rising to the occasion. But I think Risa would be absolutely, he'd be happy, but I think he'd also be quite worried with himself a little bit. And that is simply because of the factor that Jensen has been able to make up all that ground on Risa. Because remember when the restart was, Risa was about 3 or 4 cars ahead of Jensen. So Jensen's been absolutely nailing it, while Risa's just been stuck in traffic. And here we go again. Kryptonite is playing the Sergio Perez role for Sam Corby here. He's playing it perfectly. The inspiration here that Kryptonite is getting from Sergio Perez is absolutely mega. Great job from him, really, to keep the Inter tyres behind and just put his car in the right place there. But obviously, I think the tyre advantage he has obviously means there's going to be a bit some leeway. He is coming back. And yeah, like I said, I don't think he would have been able to break any later. Otherwise, he would have just compromised himself anyway.
Yeah, this could be interesting though to see Risa. He's 1.5 seconds behind Sam Corby. How quickly can he build that gap up as Kryptonite again just tries to defend ever so slightly to the inside. Couldn't get his car fully across. Down the inside goes Jensen. Not able to make that move done though on the curb. So very well held now by Kryptonite on this much older set of tyres. Cohen sets the fastest lap of the race. He's on a bit fresher intermediates than all of them. And Jensen nearly into the back of the AlphaTauri. Just manages to keep his nose. Let's not forget, he qualified he qualified in second, took the lead early on, spun on lap 1, went right down towards the back of the field. He's now got himself up in 5th place, but does have that 3 second of time penalty. Kryptonite has 5, which he'll serve in the pit stops. All the other penalties are free. And Jensen just losing a bit of patience. And look how much time he has lost to Risa. And look how much time Risa has gained on Sam Corby. Over a second on this lap. Any doubts on which tyres you need to be on have just been shattered.
Wow, I mean, Kryptonite's defending has been absolutely sublime at the moment. Of course, he's only going to have it for a certain amount of time, but the fact Jensen hasn't been able to get it done on this lap just shows how good defending it is. But I think he'll have it done now. Whether Kryptonite can do anything at all to defend, no, he can't. He's down to 5th place on those really old wet tyres. Let's not forget, it's not even fresh wet tyres, so really Kryptonite, you know, absolute mega defending to keep Jensen well away. But for Risa and everything, he'd be delighted now. After all that, he would have been slightly bothered by Jensen behind him, but Jensen falling so far behind and everything has made him feel perhaps a little bit more confident in his chances here today for the race win. Obviously, Jensen picking up a penalty earlier in the race. I'm not too sure what it was for, but I believe it was actually a collision under the safety car, so it could be led to be removed. Obviously, if he doesn't pit again, which doesn't look likely, but anyway, Risa, though, he is looking to overtake Sam Corby, almost desperate to get by at this point. He's only got 12 laps left to get past these 2 cars, and, well, we don't know whether there's another big sprinkle of rain coming, which could disrupt the momentum of the intermediate tyre drivers.
Yeah, we'll have to see how things go. There's a train forming behind Kryptonite again. Eltic with another fastest lap, but here comes Risa on the back of Sam Corby. They're both closing up onto Tom. Down the inside goes the Alfa Romeo driver. Sam's going to try and hold it off round the outside. He's just not got the grip, though, to be able to do so. And that is Risa into second. And Jensen's been able to really catch up to these drivers as well. Sam's struggling ever so slightly on the wet tyres. Is the Alpine going to be able to send one down the inside into Decido de Largo here? Just thinks slightly better of it. Kryptonite still fighting further back. Tries to get ahead of Monostrol. Again, the Haas driver's left the door open ever so slightly, and Kryptonite might just be able to do him on traction up the hill here towards Ferrajova. They're going to be going side by side. Haas on the inside. There's contact. And somehow Monostrol has managed to hold that car. Danscreen takes avoided action to the outside. Santeri now trying to go on the side of Monostrol, who's managed to go round again. He's getting sent all over the place here. Absolute chaos with all the drivers mixing strategies, of course. Kryptonite, a bit of a cork in the bottle. Monostrol now side by side with Brock. It is all kicking off at that part in the midfield, and Risa is now right on the back of Tom with the extra grip he's got. This should be fairly straightforward, Sam.
Yep, and oh my goodness, this is quite mad, isn't it, this race? Risa looks like he's about to take the lead. He's going to go to the outside. This is about straight line speed here, and Tom has a buttload of it compared to Risa. Risa sends it to the inside, and I think it's going to be moved on. He defends the line pretty well. A little bit of contact between the two, but Tom isn't able to get alongside Risa, and I think it's now job done for him. Now it's time for Jensen to get past Tom. He's absolutely accelerating to the back of that Red Bull, but he's not going to send it here. He knows he's got a bit of time to play with 10 laps. Obviously, to be exact, but I wonder what people like Dan is thinking. If he knows that Risa and Jensen have made up all these positions ahead of them, he'll be feeling quite confident in himself to get past Kryptonite quite quickly. But then again, we've seen Kryptonite in this race. He's defended so well compared to the drivers, even with the disadvantage of those 25 lap-old wet tyres. So this is going to be a really interesting battle, even when it looks decent, and I say that we've now got a safety car. So everything is neutralised once again. So all the wet tyre drivers who are still out there, surely they're going to go on to intermediates now.
Well, it's one of those. Do you go for a set of intermediate tyres, knowing that you lose a lot of track position and you're going to have 8 or 9 laps to try and make it up? Or do you just try and stay out there? I think everyone could manage to get towards the end of the race, with possibly the exception of the Kryptonite. And Reese's into the pits. He's going for a fresh set of intermediates, and this is perhaps not one that we expected. Reese comes into the pits. Tom, Sam Corby in as well. Kryptonite follows him in. Jensen stayed out there. Dan stayed out there. The rest of the wet tyre runners have come in. Are any other intermediate runners going to come in because they've got a bit fresher tyres? Have Jax, Legend and Andrea. So I think they're going to stay out. This is another change that we were not expecting. Brock, he's the only driver now out there on a set of the full wet tyres. He's got himself into third place, and with none of the drivers ahead of him with both drivers I should say ahead of him having a penalty. Maybe that is why he is just going for something different. Our third safety car is here. Jensen now leads the race ahead of Dan, both with penalties, both on an old set of intermediates. Brock on an old set of wets, and Risa on that fresh set of intermediate tyres. No dangers about these getting to you towards the end of the race. I can't see it either raining heavily enough or stopping raining to negotiate a change to a different type of tyre, whether that be dries or full wet. So it's going to be intermediates towards the end. How well will Jensen and Dan's tyres hold up?
Well, I think obviously all tyres will get to the end now. I don't think any of them will crack under sweat, but I think Brock's the interesting one here. I don't understand his position to stay on the wet tyres. Obviously, he gets track position, but we've seen how good Risa is, in particular into the first corner, how good Risa was able to go. And people like Tom, Sam Corby, etc. Obviously, Sam Corby was on the wet tyres, in fact. Think of the confidence he'll be back on the intermediates, on the same set of tyres as Risa, etc. It's a really, really good run to the line for everyone. For Santeri as well, he's moved down the field, but he's definitely shown pace in this race. Moderstroll as well, he's been bashed around a little bit, but he's got a lot of potential. But for Brock, he has basically now got to play the similar role to Kryptonite here. Well, not a similar role, but he's playing a similar sort of part to what Kryptonite is. He's the guy who's got a heavy disadvantage, either on the wrong set of tyres or on an extremely worn set of tyres. And for him, whether he wants to play a team game with any of them, whether it's his own team like Shazoo, or whether it's the McLaren team, which is, well, frankly, also Shazoo, it'd be intriguing to see whether he can help Tom out and maybe get Tom to the top step of the podium, or whether he's probably just going to try and see what he can do on the way.
Yeah, there is still that battle for second place in the championship. Brock, 88 points going into this race. Andrea, 77. Risa, 66. So you'd say at the moment, with 8.5 laps to go, it's not looking too bad for Brock, seeing as he's in third place. Risa is in fourth, and Andrea is outside of the points. But on that older set of tyres and on that wet set of tyres, it would not surprise me if Risa can manage to get ahead of him, maybe even take this victory. If I was Brock, that's who I'd be worried about at the moment for getting my runner-up slot in the championship. It could well be the Alfa Romeo driver, who we've seen claim a couple of victories this season already, 2 in a row in America and Mexico from pole position. They're his only podiums of the season so far. Could it well be a third podium tonight? I'd say he's looking good for it if he keeps it clean. A third victory of the season as well, possibly in prime position. Safety car will be staying out for 1 more lap, so we'll get 7 more laps of racing as we get the penalty situation up again. Everyone who has a penalty has 3 seconds, so unless they've been shoved off track for one of them warnings, they will not be able to get them removed. And this is bad news obviously for Jensen and Dan, because they've not got as much time to build that gap. Not so long ago it looked like Jensen's penalty was only going to cost him 1 or 2 places. Now it could easily be 5 or 6.
Yeah, for Jensen and Dan, it's a very interesting strategy this. They didn't come into the pits, obviously there's obvious reasons really behind it. They've got track position first of all. Secondly, again, I don't know whether the intermediates really suffer too much under the wear, like the wet tyres perhaps don't. It'd be interesting to see if they do or not. And obviously, thirdly, because of the penalties, they would have not wanted to drop behind cars and potentially sacrifice, wasted time that they didn't need to behind drivers who are either slower or who obviously have the advantage anyway because of
Yeah, certainly should be an exciting finish to this Grand Prix. Tom are getting a warning there under the safety car, which is a bit interesting. I think that's because he's driving so fast to try to catch up to the back of the pack. And safety car is coming in this lap, so Tom and Elting are going to be coming in hot with a much warmer set of tyres than everyone else, which could give them an advantage as well. Third safety car coming in. Third different leader we've had under that safety car. But it's now Jensen trying to lead the pack away. He knows he's got to try and escape and hope possibly that Brock can hold some of these drivers up on that older set of the wet tyres if Jensen wants to claim his first victory of the season. But off he goes then, and he has caught Dan napping ever so slightly. Risa on the back of Brock, who's on the back of Dan here. Down the inside, dives it. Goes Risa, so much more grip on the brakes. And I think any hopes of Brock being able to hold this field up has just gone out the window. Into third place goes the Alfa Romeo driver. Tom now all over the back of Brock as well. He's made the move down the inside. Into turn number 3, you've got Santeri on the back of Jax, who's on those older set of the intermediate tyres. And this time he just has to hold back, does Santeri. Jensen with a great restart though, takes the lead. 7/10 of a second ahead of Dan. Risa and Tom though flying past Brock. They're going to be almost impossible to stop, surely.
Yeah, but watch Sam Corby, he's down the inside. Brock has just got no tyres on those wets. They look awful compared to the intermediates at this point. Sam Corby up to 5th place. He's still in this battle there. Risa and Tom and everything. Those two drivers are still in with a chance for a win. Dan and Jensen's chances are rather shriveling away quickly as Brock continues to slide down the field, and for good measure, he's now got himself a penalty. KGL picking up a penalty. That's not really going to be bothered too much. Before I say that, he's actually back in this race, actually, funny enough. Here comes Reset anyway. He's getting close to Dan right in front of him. Is he going to try go around the outside at turn 1? You know what? He's thinking about it. Why not? And you know what? He's gone and done it. What a beautiful move there from the Alfa Romeo driver of Reset. He's now onto the back of Jensen, who has really been a driver who's had a lot of ups and downs in this race. Here comes Tom then, who's also had been a driver with a few ups and downs in this race. He is still sticking to the back of Risa. Risa's got a bit of competition now with the early race leader Shazoo Tom looking to take his claim and his first victory of the season.
Yeah, but remember when I said Brock needed to watch out for Risa? If the race finished on this lap with penalties, Risa would take the victory and take that second place in the championship. Brock nearly lost it coming out of Young Sao, just on pure traction, really struggling on his tyres. Did lose it into turn 1, not sure if there was contact. He is now at the back of the field. Like you said, great job by Eltic to get himself back onto the lead lap. I think purely because of that choice to go for the intermediate tyres, really helping him out. Dan has now dropped down towards 5th place. Jensen, though, 1 second lead here. He's still clearly feeling. These intermediates have done a lot of laps under the safety car, so they won't be as worn as they would have been if it had been 18 full green flag laps. But he's clearly feeling like they've got a bit of pace, and they're still doing a good job for him. 1.1 seconds ahead of Risa at this moment in time. Then it's Tom, Sam Corby, Dan, Legend, Jack, Santeri, Modestrol, Andrea rounding out the top 10 drivers. Kryptonite all over the back of Cohen then. 11 and 12. Let's not forget the Kryptonite train that we had early on. I think overtaking him was everyone else's Kryptonite. They were really struggling. Down the inside goes Legend on Dan. Red Bull driver goes wide ever so slightly, almost loses it on the curb and collides with the Williams. No harm done though, and that is Legend up into 5th. He was down near the back as well. It's been a topsy-turvy race for a lot of drivers, Sam. The final 4.5 laps could still well have some changes.
Oh, there's a lot still to go on. Sam Corby right on the back of Tom now, and Tom has kind of lost his pace a little bit to Risa ahead, and Risa's still trying to chase down Jensen, even though he really doesn't need to overtake him. All he needs to do is stay ahead of Tom, and of course Sam and well, Legend I think is probably out of this fight at the moment, but then again, never say never. It's 2.3 seconds down, so it looks quite doubtful. Dan is falling down the field. That's obviously retrospective to the tyres he's on, being much older than everyone else is around him. Jax will probably be under pressure from Santeri right in a second. Modestrol also looking quite likely to be quite threatening to Jax, particularly with these two side by side into the corner. Jax stays in that lead position in 7th. In 8th place is Santeri, who's looking to close in, and Modestrol just hunting in 9th place there at the moment, looking to gain back some positions. But here comes Santeri anyway. He looks to the outside, and there's a little bit of a tap there, and that is the position lost for Santeri. And maybe that was a bit too ambitious from Santeri as he went a bit onto the grass, which obviously has costed him a position, as there's Dan going well wide there out the exit of that corner. And here comes Jax. He's looking for an opportunity here. Very opportunistic move. And there we go, side by side into the corner. I don't think there's really going to be much more that you can see from this. Oh my goodness, they're onto the grass. Both of them a bit of contact. And well, for Mother Stroll, he just says thank you very, very much as he moves back up to 6th place.
Yeah, there was a bit of contact the previous lap between Eltic and Asako. Asako was sent completely sideways into Pico de Pato as Santeri now throws one down the inside of Jax. I don't think a lot of this contact's been intentional. It's just been different ages of tyres, different grip levels, and still trying to get used to what these intermediate tyres are like. Sam Corby on the back of Tom. Down the inside he goes. Fastest lap of the race then for our champion. Tom's had to go a bit deep there, and Sam losing traction. Can he use his bit of ERS down the straight here? Can he use the slipstream as well? Is Tom going to bother to defend that inside line? He hasn't, and Sam, that's just enough room to get a car down the inside, deciding it is not worth it this time around. Jensen's still a second ahead of Risa, and if Tom and Sam Corby keep battling, you never know, Jensen could pull off a 2nd place.
Oh my goodness, this is going to be one interesting end. And Jensen hasn't lost time either. He may be on older tyres, but he has not lost time at all to Risa. Risa's still a second behind. Tom, a second behind. Sam Corby is only 3/10 behind him. Gap to the leader is 2.4 at the moment, but with Tom and Sam Corby battling as hard as they are, if they continue to battle like this, only more time is just going to be lost, more and more. So Jensen's in a very, very good position if he just keeps up his pace, and if Tom and Sam just continue to fight.
Yeah, someone else who could be in a good position soon is Mother Stroll, all over the back of Legend, who just didn't seem to have the pace through that middle sector, using as much ERS as he can do. Onto the penultimate lap of the race then for the leaders, and Mother Stroll's going to have to go the long way round at the outside at the centre S. Is he able to get this move done here? He's going to have the inside for the second part. Great move there by the FVR driver, and that is Mother Stroll up into 5th place. We've had a yellow flag, but further back, that is Tomer, who has lost the car. But here comes Legend again, trying to fight back here. Santeri not too far behind to maybe take advantage if things start heading a bit south in all of this. Mother Stroll's got the move done. Is Legend going to get caught on the curb? No, he's not, and Santeri able to, well, not able in the end to get that move done as Tomer retires in the pits. 5th retirement in this race. Down the inside at the second part of Ferraggiova goes Santeri. That's a bit of a brave move from the Alfa Romeo. He makes it stick though. He's up into 7th, and Jax now trying to get ahead of the Williams. It has been a fascinating end to this race. Jax is all over the grass. I think that's the 2nd time we've seen that happen, and Dan almost, they sends it there on the inside. I don't think Legend is going to be too happy about that one. They're clearly, you can tell it's the final race of the season. They don't care if they need any of these spare parts for any further. They are just absolutely loving things at the moment. Final lap of the race then for our leaders. Jensen still in the lead. Tom setting the fastest lap last time around. Looks like things have calmed down in the front, but in the midfield, so much wheel banging.
Oh, there is loads and loads going on. There was Cohen and Kryptonite going side by side. Kryptonite's going to send it on Cohen for good measure. He's hit the back of Andrea. It is literally bumper cars here. And, well, we've had a spin finally out of all of them. And it is, unfortunately, Cohen who is the victim of that spin. But we've seen so much action in this midfield. It's kind of crazy how we've only seen one of the spins. Kryptonite goes down the inside, although he outbrakes himself slightly, and Andrea is easily able to take that position back. But, well, we've had some good, hard battling towards the end, and I think it's still not over here. Sam Corby maybe looking opportunistic down the inside. No, he doesn't. He's not going to surprise anyone, is he? Towards the end, he's just going to get it home. I think that's the same for everyone now at the front of this field, and I think that is the same for everyone on this field.
Yeah, I can't see where they're going to get the moves done now. Out of the final corner come this lead quartet. Jensen's going to lead the cars across the line, but with that 3-second penalty, he's not going to end up on the podium. Jensen sees the checkered flag first, but it is Risa who takes the victory here at the final race of the season, and with it, secures 2nd place in the championship. Elting's retired from the race on that final run as well towards the checkered flag. Tom's in 2nd, Sam Corby is in 3rd. I'm not sure whether Elting's actually just retired and quit the car there, because it doesn't look like he's got any damage. Sam Corby in 3rd, Jensen, Mother Stroll, Santeri, Legend, Jax, Andrea and Kryptonite the final points finisher, 500ths of a second in the end, behind the car in front of him, which was Andrea. But for the third time this season, it is Risa who took this victory, took a gamble, pitting for fresh intermediate tyres in the end. Didn't have the pace to overtake Jensen, but the fact that he'd kept it clean meant he secured that victory, and with it, second in the championship.
Yeah, and well, I think obviously, I think his celebration on the podium is quite fitting, isn't it? Superman, perhaps celebration with his cape on the back, or a superhero. You know, he's come to save the day, and obviously he saved himself through being second in the championship in the end, and obviously a race win as well for this season. It's quite fitting. Is that celebration, and he'll be happy with that. Second place in the championship, virtually the championship winner if it weren't for the obviously dominating Sam Corby. So basically the best of the rest. Do you really want to call it that? I'm not too sure. It's hard to say, but Risa, well done. He's had a great season, and it's a good finish to his season to wrap it off as well.
Yeah, certainly was an absolutely, like we said, fantastic race. Risa taking the victory there, calling the strategy right. Tom finishing in second place, so close to taking that win. Sam Corby, another podium for him. 9th out of the 10 races he's taken part in. He's in 3rd. Jensen recovering from that early mistake. If it wasn't for the penalty, he'd have got the win. He ends up in 4th. Modestrol, Santeri, Legend, Jax, Andrea, Kryptonite with the points finishers. Dan, Hammerline and Cohen, the rest of the finishers. Eltink, we saw retire at the end. Tomer, Brock, Asako, Messenger and Lars, the rest of the retirements. 3 safety cars in that race. Changeable conditions, and it was those differing strategies that ended up probably deciding the destination of the victory today.
I mean, the safety cars, I think, had baffled everyone, but I think obviously the drivers who were smart enough to go onto the intermediates the earliest, I think they took advantage. To be honest, of that, I think that second safety car obviously neutralised absolutely everything, but the drivers on the podium today really were the drivers who were most likely to even overtake, to be honest. All 3 of them looked desperate. All 3 of them looked like they had the determination to win the race today. Obviously, Tom being at the front, he'd want to get back to the front pretty quickly. He did. Risa wants to get that race win and everything and make up for that poor qualifying, or arguably poor qualifying. He did, and obviously Sam Corby coming from the back, he made it all the way to the podium, and he done that through battling hard, overtaking, being smart on track, as did the other 2 as well, finishing 2nd and 1st. And yeah, it's unsurprising all 3 of them have got themselves a podium here this evening.
Yeah, I think Chile sums it up. Great season finale on the PlayStation. Even though there was nothing to fight for in terms of the championship, there's always that bit of pride that keeps the drivers going at it right until the end of the race. Shall we get some of the podium runners in then for the interviews for the final time this season? We're just getting a few of them in now, and we will go in reverse order. We will start with the champion, the man who finished 3rd today. It is Sam Corby. It looked very interesting out there and very difficult to call which tyres were the best ones, Sam.
Yeah, exactly. You said it. I mean, I was very surprised actually about how the inters were so quick because, it just said it was going to be full wet the whole race. I just sort of assumed it was going to be the wets, and that'd be it. I didn't really think even about the inters until obviously that first pit stop happened on the safety car and saw people going into it. I was quite surprised actually, but yeah, they caught it pretty much perfectly, to be fair. But it's one of those where it probably could have even switched around and gone back to full wets again. Like, you didn't know what it could possibly do, so a bit of a gamble from that respect. But yeah, it was a really fun race. I mean, managed to carve through the field quite quickly at the start, but the front, obviously, the further forward you get, the harder it is to overtake. And on that last stint when we all had equal tyres, felt like my pace was good enough to, be one of the quickest out of the front few. But yeah, just couldn't get past because, very difficult overtaking the rain. So, but yeah, it was really fun, and good race.
Yeah, certainly was fun. Like you said, you carved your way through the field at the start of the race. Because you decided not to take part in qualifying, did you decide to go for a setup that was perhaps more tuned to the wet weather, whereas some of the other drivers may have had to compromise ever so slightly?
Well, I did intend to do that, honestly, but I loaded my setup in qualifying, and obviously part firmware kicks in, doesn't it? So I didn't actually change the wings, which I was going to do, and then I got to the race and I've realised I couldn't. So no, it was actually just my normal setup. But yeah, it seemed to work, and obviously I did PSGL as well in the intermediate conditions, so I knew it worked, which I guess was helpful today.
Yeah, maybe having that bit less downforce actually helped you with some of the overtakes, especially with no DRS. Sam, do you have any questions for our champion?
Yep, and that is more on the ambitions of next season. I'm at the assumption that next season you're going to be racing on PC and PC only. Is there any sort of expectations or any sort of ambitions you want to take yourself forward? Perhaps next season in WOR on PC, which I'm at the assumption that's going to be the case.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't thought about it too much. I'm not sure about sort of what I want to do. Obviously, I'll just that's if I'm doing it. I'll just drive and do the best I can, of course, and just see how we go. I mean, yeah, obviously today is basically my last PlayStation race, so that's kind of a sad part. But yeah, we'll have to see what happens when we go over to PC, and yeah, try. It's going to be very tough to be anywhere near the front with the people on there, but yeah, we'll give it everything and see.
Oh yeah, well, it's obviously super competitive, but congratulations on your podium and obviously the championship as well earlier on in the season.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's pretty much it from me then, Sam, as well. Congratulations on the podium. Congratulations on the championships, and we'll look forward to see what you can do on the PC next season.
Thanks very much. Yeah, cheers for commentating this season, guys.
No worries, it's been an absolute pleasure with some of the racing we've had. We'll now go to the man who finished second in that race, so close to taking the victory. It is his first race, I believe, actually, as part of the Shazoo team. It is Shazoo Tom. Fantastic result from yourself today. Do you think that decision to stay out on the wet tyres, though, was what cost you this victory?
Is he here?
Don't seem to be able to hear Tom, unfortunately, at the moment. In fact, we'll try something like Tom. Can you hear us at all? No, don't seem to be able to at the moment. So we'll try moving him around a bit, because sometimes that does work. We might even try and move ourselves around to see if that works as well. Tom, can you hear us?
Yeah. Hello?
Yeah, congratulations then, Tom. Second place today, so close to getting that victory. Do you think staying out on the wet tyres for that first safety car is perhaps what cost you this win?
Yeah, I didn't gamble for the Inters, which was it was a pretty impossible choice because Jeff was telling us that it's heavy rain, so you'd think it'd get wet, it'd stay wet, and the wets were faster at the time, so I didn't go for it. But yeah, I can't really complain because the last safety car basically saved my race. So I got some bad luck, but I got good luck in the same race. So
yeah, I think maybe one bit of good fortune. Right at the start of the race, you had an okay start. Jensen got ahead of you. You must have thought that you got, like as Sam said, all your Christmases had come at once when you saw Jensen spearing off towards the left-hand side. How tricky was it in those first few laps in what were atrocious conditions?
yeah, well, it was much easier in the first lap for me than Jensen because I could just follow him and he could do the work finding out the braking. But yeah, then after he had that spin, I thought it was going to be difficult, but I managed to get away from Asakome, and so yeah, he held up the guys behind.
Yeah, great result from yourself. Sam, do you have any questions?
No questions, but of course, congratulations on your P2 tonight.
Thank you.
One final one from me then. What are your ambitions then going ahead now? End of the season? Do you think you've shown some good pace in the races you've been able to take part in? Do you think next season, with obviously Sam Corby, the sort of alien of this division heading away, do you think you could challenge for the title on this platform?
Yeah, well, if I manage to get a full-time seat, because I actually reserved today. If I can get a full-time seat, I'll definitely try, but yeah, we'll have to see. There's a lot more fast people in there other than Sam.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's definitely, like you said, today's race proved what depth of talent we've got here at WOR. Congratulations, though, on the podium, I'll let you head off.
Nice one.
That is pretty much it then, Sam, for the stream and for WOR Season 11 on the PlayStation and across the platforms. It's been a superb race today, and it just shows sometimes when the drivers haven't got anything to fight for, when they haven't got that championship pressure, they can just go out and relax and deliver a really exciting race for everyone.
I think everyone really enjoyed that. It's safe to say. I think no one can really complain about the race we've seen tonight. It's been very enjoyable, and as we said at the start of the stream, Brazil delivers no matter what, and it really did. I think a lot of people have doubts when it comes to wet races because they just feel like they can't really do much to overtake. But there was a lot of chaos in this race. There was a lot of good racing as well. Obviously, we talk about that move around the outside. I think it was Jensen who got... I can't remember who he got it on. I think it may have been Brock, but it was an amazing move nonetheless. No matter what tyres they were on, no matter what advantage or disadvantage either driver had, it was still a magnificent move around the outside. And there was a lot of other moves in this race that showed very good, and a lot of drivers really proved their strengths and weaknesses in these wet conditions as well.
Yeah, certainly. It always does require that bit more finesse, perhaps, than the dry conditions. Although we've seen on this game, it can be very difficult to get the cars around as well. That is it then for this stream. That is it for WOR in 2021. There will be more information, of course, on Discord and on Twitter, so make sure to check out the description for information about how to join those and how to maybe join the league in Season 12. But for myself and Sam, thanks Sam for rejoining me for tonight, of course, and the races earlier on in the season. Thanks to Logan for the races that he commentated on as well. Thank you to all the drivers for putting in absolutely superb performances across the 13 races we've had on the PlayStation platform. And thank you, most importantly, to you guys for watching it, because if you didn't watch, there'd be no point of us streaming these races. We will see you in the new year. Have a good Christmas and New Year. Take care of yourself, everyone. See you in 2022. Goodbye.